almost half the world's population is living day to day on just that amount. But then you kind of drill into those stats, and there's 2 billion adults in the world who are unbanked. They don't have access to financial services, right? Probably because they live in emerging regions, emerging markets where they're risky, there's political risk, and so the banks won't come in. But the encouraging thing about all of that is the telcos have been there first. And 1 billion of those 2 billion people are carrying smartphones and have the capacity to hold digital value, to store money, to bank, to transfer payments. You've already seen it happening with this M-Pesa phenomenon, right? The telco companies are actually providing a payments mechanism. Again, that's just the beginning.
Welcome to Underground Crypto.
Hey, this is the Underground Crypto, back at it again. We back at it. So for today's show, we're going to talk about one of the partners of Stella, right? So IBM, we haven't heard too much. Not too much articles and news on IBM Worldwide. That clip was from the former ex-CTO of IBM Worldwide, Jesse Lund, right? So we're going to get into more of those clips, and we're going to see how awesome Stella is, right? This was a very good interview from CryptoFinder. Very good. So we're going to take a couple of clips from there, look at a couple of clips from that interview. Looks like to be about a year ago. And this shows how awesome the sleeping giant Stella really is. Right? So that's our show for today. Looking at IBM partner with Stella. Why did they partner with Stella? Must be a reason. There are all other big cryptos out there with great utilities. Why did they choose Stella? Right? So that's going to be our show for today. Also, we're going to be giving out the 50 XLMs. Right? Because it looks like we're over 100 subscribers. In my last video, I did mention if we did cross over 100 subscribers, I'll be giving away 50. I hate to give away XLMs, but I did promise it, so we're going to be giving it away. Right? Also, don't forget to subscribe and like the video for the 500 XLM giveaway. So that's still on. But I'll be giving away 50 XLMs today. So wait till the end of the show, and I'll be calling out that lucky person. All right. So remember, this isn't financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. All right. So we're going to dive into it. So IBM, right? So they partnered up with Stellar around last year, right? Early last year. Haven't heard too much news about it, right? So the problem they were looking to solve, right? So everyday financial institutions move trillions of dollars from country to country and currency to currency using a payment designed over 50 years ago, right? So this is kind of sounding like something that XRP is in the mix with, right? Solution: IBM Worldwide piloted connecting larger scale financial institutions to Stellar via a publicly permissioned network. Right? We could see some diagrams right here. Implementation: regulated financial institutions applied to join Worldwire were selected by IBM. So why Stellar? And I'm just going to go over a couple of bullets because there's going to be more reasons from the ex-CTO, right? He's going to get into real detail. So these are actual use cases of why they joined Stellar. And this is a huge company, IBM, right? So why Stellar? Stable coin, right? Compliance, right? Instant finality, scalability, non-profit. These are some things that we mentioned of why Acoin joined Stella. So we can see Stella is that sleeping giant. It really is. Right? So we're going to look at more of this now. Right? So IBM launches a blockchain-based global payments network using Stella's cryptocurrency. So this is from Forbes back in March of last year. So IBM is paving the way for banks and other regulated financial institutions to join the blockchain revolution. So rather than going through a series of intermediaries when sending money across borders, IBM has created a real-time global payments network to support cross-border transactions and foreign exchange in more than 50 countries using digital assets. All right? IBM Blockchain Worldwide will help financial institutions to improve services they deliver to their consumers by optimizing and accelerating foreign exchange, cross-border payments, and remittances. Using the Stellar protocol, WorldWire serves as a network provider for international payments, enabling point-to-point money transfers in lieu of the complexities of conventional correspondent banking. So we see some keywords here that Ripple XRP brings up a lot, right? Remittances, cross-border payments. So it looks like IBM was looking to do the same as well, right? And they launched with over 50 countries with this, right? So WorldWire has enabled payment locations in 72 countries with 48 currencies and 44 banking endpoints. So back when this article was written, a lot of countries. I'm wondering though if this is still the same. If you know, if the countries they enabled payment with went up or down, and the currencies as well, please comment below and let us know. Right? So, what this means for consumers. Right? So some great data here from several years ago. One reason a number of banks and other regulated financial institutions have expressed interest in joining WorldWire is due to the benefits the network could offer to those sending money across borders. International money transfers, also known as remittances, account for a significant aspect of the global economy. According to the economists at the World Bank, migrants across the world sent an estimated $574 billion to relatives in their home countries in 2016. The United States is currently the largest source of international remittances in the world, sending a total of $56.3 billion in 2015. So we know that this is going to keep going up and up and up. So this is the future right here. This is definitely the future, and a lot of money is going to flow through this way. You know, there are over 2 billion, as he mentioned, 2 billion, might be even more, unbanked, meaning they don't have a bank account, right? So this is going to open up a lot of doors, right? I'm going to jump back into some of the questions that were being asked, and a big shout out to CryptoFinder for this interview here. Right, so we're gonna play a few more clips of this. Right, so we're gonna play 3 clips. The first clip, he's gonna ask, how is XLM involved? And turn up your speakers and let's listen in. Let me know what you think.
And you've built this on the Stella network. Can you tell us how is the XLM sort of token involved with this?
Yeah, so the architecture of WorldWire is really a cross-border payment network, the magic of which, if you will, the novelty of, is the ability to send payment message instructions saying, hey, I'm sending you something, get ready, and on the other end, the receiver is making sure that who you're sending it to is not bad actor. But once that happens, and that happens really fast, then we send the value along with it. And so that transfer of value is made possible by an ecosystem of digital instruments, settlement instruments, digital assets, of which Lumens is one. So we see Lumens as a viable settlement instrument in this ecosystem of cross-border payments.
a viable settlement instrument in the ecosystem of payments. So that's huge right there. That's huge. Right? Protocol. The next question that he's going to ask is, and I'm very interested in this, like it's kind of like the comparison of XRP and Stella XLM. What's the difference? Why did Jeb Mccaleb leave XRP? He built XRP, so he knows how that works. So he built something a little bit different with XLM, more scalable, more usable. Right? He knows the differences, and he built, in my opinion, XLM to be better. Right? Even though XRP is a beast, but XLM is that sleeping giant. Right? So we're gonna listen to the next question of how he compares Ripple with Stella.
Now, just to sort of contrast that, it sounds a little like, this is in the same realm as with Ripple to some extent. Can you sort of tell our community sort of how to compare and sort of contrast that as to how that's different and what you guys are sort of doing?
Yeah, so I think credit Ripple for the vision of using a digital asset in order to enact immediate settlement with finality. I think their implementation followed one path. Our implementation is a little bit different. We're not the issuer of an asset. In fact, what we believe is that there should be an ecosystem, a variety of digital assets that provide the settlement instruments that enable these cross-border payments. And the participants on the network should be able to choose and negotiate their choices in real time. And the pricing might be different depending on the settlement instrument you use. Okay. So I think with Ripple, they're looking at XRP as their primary digital asset for settlement. For us, it could be Lumens, it could be Ripple, it could be XRP even, it could be Bitcoin, but it would also probably include other instruments like stable coins and even eventually, soon, hopefully, central bank issued digital currencies. Okay.
So did we hear that, right? So some key differences there. It's an ecosystem. You choose number one. Number two, you choose the type of instrument. You choose a type of asset. It could be Stellar Lumens. It could be Bitcoin. The price varies. Right? So there's definitely some big differences there. So we can see how WorldWire utilizing XLM makes it stand out. It's the power of XLM, the power of Stellar, right? And we're gonna do the one last question. This one is very interesting. It's around 2 minutes long, right? But this really shows you the benefits, the key benefits of why IBM chose Stellar and not a lot of the other coins, the cryptocurrencies that are out there. Right? So this shows you how big XLM, the sleeping giant, really is. So I'm going to play that and we're going to talk about it.
Why did you sort of choose Stella at first rather than, say, Hyperledger?
Yeah. So Hyperledger Fabric is a protocol that we've invested in, and we're now really investing, if you consider the development resources that we're putting into Stellar as well. But Hyperledger Fabric is really designed for private permission networks, and we can explain a little bit more about what that means, whereas Stellar is a public permission network. So if you look at the spectrum of kind of blockchain architectures or topologies, you have sort of this enterprise space, which IBM is really good at participating in. That's kind of our bread and butter. And so we built a blockchain protocol, Hyperledger Fabric, that kind of goes after that to make large enterprises, to give them a toolkit to help them to establish private transactional networks on their own, right? On the other end of that spectrum is kind of the free-for-all, the Wild West, the Bitcoin, where you don't need to know anybody. Anybody can join the network. You kind of come, you don't need to trust anybody. The network itself provides some level of trust to allow you to transact or interact. In the middle somewhere is kind of a hybrid approach where it's a publicly accessible network. Kind of anybody can join and through some validator provide transactions on the network, but it's still permissioned. You know who the validators are in some ways, or there's some kind of trust built in to the validating entities on the network, and that's why we picked Stella. Because for this particular use case, we felt like there had to be a public network underneath, right? Because transparency is really key, especially to kind of the underlying social movements that are driving this new technology, but also needed to be scalable, right? So we picked Stellar because it's a scalable protocol. Initially out of the gate, we needed to support thousands of transactions per second, right? And so that's a tall feat for some of the other blockchain capabilities, technologies that are out there. So there's a few reasons that we picked it, and we see them very complementary with what we're doing with Hypermetric now.
Did we hear that? Did we hear that? Right? Number one, public network allows transparency. Number two, scalable protocol. Right? Number three, can handle thousands of transactions per second. And what he said there was they looked at many other cryptocurrencies out there, and none of them can handle. None of them can do what Stellar does. That's why Stellar will be going to the moon. Not financial advice, but Stellar is it. It's the sleeping giant. Right? It's at 8 cents today. Right? But you'll wake up one day and it will be a totally different price. Right? And this is one thing. When Jesse Lund, Stellar XLM was at a really good price last year when IBM and Jesse Lund was there. After he left, I think late last year, that's where Stellar took a tumble. We had a setback there and everything. I'm not sure if we fully recovered from that, with Jesse Lund leaving, but we're packing those bags. Right? So those are the questions and answers, and you can see the stark difference there with XLM and the other cryptocurrencies. And we're going to be hearing a lot more about how great Stellar is and the benefit it provides to people all over the world. Companies all over the world utilizing this great protocol, this great cryptocurrency. Right? So that's from a CTO's perspective, utilizing it. But what about from a developer's perspective, saying, all right, we're partnering up with Stellar. We're going to integrate with Stellar. From a developer's perspective, how do they feel about that? How's their documentation? How is it to integrate? So we're going to play this clip that's on the Stellar website. And this actually gives an insight of how great their integration is. Right? So a 1-minute clip. Turn up the volume.
The world wire in general is a medium to wire the transactions from one financial institute to the other. We use Stellar as our ledger to submit transactions to. Everything is open source on Stellar, so it was very easy resource to learn and understand. I have been using 3 things in my everyday life when I'm working on Stellar. The first thing is the API documentation. The other thing is the lab. And the third thing is community resource. Documentation is really nicely, neatly done. That has been my Bible for every day. And the other thing is lab. The lab is connected to the test network, which is live. While I was developing, I used this lab as my starting point to construct an example of this transaction and understand how it works successfully and in terms of error conditions. We learn from failures. So anytime the transaction fails, you get the error back, and then you have to understand why it failed. The community is also useful in case if you don't understand why it is failing. Sometimes then you have to go and look for help. IBM has already established many years of trust with financial institutes.
So, we heard those three things, right? From a developer's perspective. The test lab, where you can test out the integration of Stellar. Integrating the APIs. The documentation, number 2. Documentation is key, right? And this is one thing that we've heard time and time again. Integrating with Stellar is simple, quick, and fast, right? Number 3, the community. So these are all great benefits because more and more organizations, companies can partner up with Stellar. So expect the partnership to expand as we go into 2021. Right? All right, so that's a wrap for IBM World Wire, right? So as I did mention early in the video, right? We crossed over 100 subscribers, and thank you very much to all of the subscribers that have joined so far. Appreciate it. Right, so we're going to climb up to 250, 1,000. We're going to keep on going. Right, tell your friends and family. Right, so we're still giving away the 500 XLMs, so still subscribe and like. But I'll be giving away 50 XLMs. And the winner of the fixed 50 XLMs is Digital Assets Jared. So Digital Assets Jared, comment on this video or any other video. Get in contact with me and I'll be sending the 50 XLMs to your wallet. All right, so that's a wrap. Thanks a ton for watching.
We don't have that much competition. They would use Stellar to make their payments faster.